Welcome back to another episode of the NeuGen Podcast. Today we have another very special guest, Tyler Scull. I'm also joined here with my co-host, Beto.
How's it going?
Today we're going to dive into what Tyler Scull has created here in Las Vegas, some great platforms for the men's side. We're going to find out more about his journey, what these leagues are, and what the future holds for him. So, Tyler, if you want to just say hello to everybody.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. Good to see you guys.
Thanks for coming.
Before we even get started, let's go ahead and just dive into your background again. Who you are, how'd you even get started into soccer?
Yeah. Do you want me to just start from the beginning again?
Yes.
So I think a big component was just, grew up youth. Born and raised in Las Vegas. My dad coached me for most of my life. Up until a certain age, was able to branch off and join an independent team. But I think that's one of the things why I'm so adamant about doing all this is I was fortunate due to finances unable to play with the club team, but just was able to see and use a lot of what my dad grew up like coaching and all the things he brought to kind of making that work. Kind of used a lot of that and applied it, and then like I said, grew up playing here, went to college, kind of took a step away, was kind of burnt out with it, and then came back 2015 or 2016, moved back, and then just didn't really have any ambition to get into soccer. Was probably going to do like marketing or engineering. That's what I was going to school for, and then just kind of fell into an internship at Mobsters, who were PDL, which is now USL 2.
So who ran Mobsters?
So Jeff Hawkins, who actually is the coach at Team CC now up in Reno. He's honestly done a lot of good. Because he's the one who helped start the CSN program. He's done a lot of things to like grow, and then honestly kind of handed it off to other people a lot of times. But he's done a lot. He's also another person who's done a lot of legwork for getting.
The reason I asked is because my brother played on a team called Mobsters, right? The younger one, and Ronnie Cherry. I don't know.
Ronnie Cherry was the assistant. So yeah,
Okay.
Ronnie. So yeah, that was your brother, you said?
Yeah, my brother played. He was a '98, and the other one was a 2000, and they played under Ronnie, which I think he was probably one of the best coaches.
He's actually at Real Salt Lake now.
Yeah, he's still there.
Yeah.
Yeah, he took like a couple of players over there, like Cheque, Rojas.
That makes sense. Dude, that's crazy now that you connect that.
Yeah.
It's like I was working with him on the men's side, and to hear you say like the guys that I'm now working with on the men's side again, that were the guys that he sent is pretty funny.
It's all full circle, huh?
That's crazy. But that's one thing is like Las Vegas soccer is not a very big pool of people, especially locals. Like, because there's people who come in and out, and like, but it's like people who are like born and raised here. There aren't very many of them, or at least very many who do things with it.
Right.
So yeah, just kind of got back involved. But yeah, and Paul Barron that you mentioned was the coach at the time, and he was kind of like, I was a little bit weird with him because he was like I knew who he was. I was a big Arsenal fan, so I knew who he was growing up. So I was a little starstruck working with him. But then kind of got thrown in the deep end when the GM actually had to step aside. Three games left, and that's actually where I kind of took over. And that I think probably the best thing that could ever happen to me was just like jumping, having no idea what I was doing, just kind of jumping straight in, but also having like the support of Jeff to kind of figure it out, and not be like reprimanded for like mistakes here and there. He kind of just let me learn. I don't think he had very much of a choice at the end of that season. But then kind of took that and realized, so as that kind of went away, I asked if I could like kind of take that over for him as he wanted to step away. And I realized very quickly that USL 2 was not a financial option for me. So then kind of did our research for honestly, I took the idea from Notre Dame college football of like, I was like, worst case scenario, we could just like create our own league, like go, like we're next to SoCal, like the best, I personally think the best men's teams around the country are from SoCal. Like there's some very good organizations on the East Coast, but I think the best players and teams, like whether or not it's the same team next year, but it's going to be some form of that team in California.
So you are the GM of these leagues now, right?
I guess commissioner you would say.
Okay.
So yeah, I would say I took.
Which league specifically?
So Nevada Premier League, which serves as a conference of Southwest Premier League. And now that was kind of the base of what we were trying to do. And now that we've kind of got some teams that have kind of become farther along and kind of have become organizations more than just like teams. We're kind of moving them onto NISA Nation. I've partnered with NISA Pro and NISA Nation to kind of create a 2-tiered system to kind of allow our elite teams to kind of separate themselves and like have that season and that level of play we've been kind of like striving for of just every game is going to matter, and creating that environment for these kids I think is going to be important to where it's like I feel like it's a lot of times it's like like once you lose with some of these kids. So I think creating that environment and then also offering and then using my league as like a platform for new teams to still kind of get their feet underneath them and learn what they're doing. So that's actually circling back to the mobsters. That's actually why I decided to start a league. Was when I did it, it was just out of my budget. So I realized the thought process, how do I create an affordable platform for people to do like what I wanted to do? And that's kind of where it stemmed from. And then just kind of met good people that have kind of, like Kevin, met him at a failed event. And then but he was there to kind of support me and kind of teach me a lot of things that I needed to learn, and kind of like in terms like the business side, because I'm just a soccer person, kind of figuring out the business. And then he's very much like a little bit of both. So he's definitely kind of helped me like create a direction with what I'm trying to do, as opposed to just kind of mindlessly helping people. And so we were able to start Nevada Premier League, create a platform for people to learn how to run teams, like learn how to run men's programs, like learn how to. And the idea is one of my ideas is just get a lot of the younger generation involved, and like, because like not to say that there's guys who haven't done great things, but I just think a lot of times the younger generation kind of waits for the old guys to kind of.
We're trying to build that bridge, right? That's exactly what you're trying to do. Now, just for people who don't know, what is NISA and what does that stand for?
So NISA is an independent professional league that is, I mean, I guess you consider second or third tier, but it is an opportunity for teams to become pro without like these huge.
So it's kind of like the umbrella underneath is right the Nevada Premier League and then the Southwest Premier League, right?
So essentially like kind of the pyramid is like you have like NISA Pro, which is like third whatever division, second, third pro division. Then you have NISA Nation, which is the whole goal of NISA Nation is to kind of create a platform for teams, like allow teams to learn how to become. So like my league, essentially, and then you have Nevada Premier League underneath NISA Nation. So the idea is that my league is just purely you can learn what you're doing. Like we have enough players. Like the game, it's very very basic. I kind of do a lot of the setup. I kind of do a lot of the takedown. So that way, all you have to do is worry about putting your team together and getting them to play on the field. And so, taking that, moving on to NISA Nation, potentially taking the next step where you get your own field. We'll be playing in high schools this season. And then the idea is potentially with that NISA partnership, there is the opportunity for a team to take that next step and become a professional team. And
okay, that's amazing. So
and NISA Pro is like it's still in its infancy stages, because like I think I think it's always going to have a negative reputation, because like USL and MLS people are never going to be a fan of it, anything competing. So I think that it's always going to have a negative reputation. People are always going to point out what's negative, but it's like also I could point out all of the same negative things that NISA, that MLS and USL had when they were coming through.
So NISA is able to send a team to play into the US or the UPS? US Open Cup, right?
Yeah. Okay. So actually, they send teams directly. So that's actually one of our focuses next season is So actually playing in the whole system, all the even the amateur teams have the opportunity. It's a little bit more difficult playing in the amateur leagues, but we actually have Open Cup qualification. And that's been one of the big goals of working with an affiliate league and not just kind of doing our own thing is NISA and Southwest gave us the opportunity like I did it. It was where I bought back in Ottawa. It was like 5 or 6 years ago. It was like qualifying round. So essentially it's a.
You said Onawa?
Yeah, FC Onawa.
Weren't they the first team to go into the U.S. Open Cup from Las Vegas?
Yeah, so I worked with Manuel Gomez, Hercules Gomez's dad. He's still kind of like a mentor to me on a lot of this stuff. Because I met him. That's how I met him, was kind of working on Onawa, and that was an interesting experience, because that was like a very well funded that's like kind of what the opposite of what I'm trying to do is we did some great things, won UPSL, first Nevada team to Open Cup qualifying, and then he was like, all right, I'm good. Like the owner was just like, I did what I wanted to do, and I'm just like,
I imagine it was very expensive, right?
Yeah, I'm sure it was expensive. But in hindsight, it makes that makes more sense why he steps away. He accomplished what he wanted to accomplish, and my thought was like, why are we stopping there? Was kind of my thought.
So is that what made you want to get into the realm of, running leagues and still being involved and helping create a platform for,
Definitely part of it. So like just the combination of like the mobsters running it and running a NAWA, like I learned, and Legends too, just like seeing how different all three of those organizations were. Like they're all pretty organized. So it was very useful to learn from all of them. But I think very different experiences, but then also that gives me different viewpoints of like what I want. Like this platform is not meant for Legends, not meant for not meant for, it's a platform that anyone can kind of use for whatever they're trying to accomplish. So Villarreal is coming in this next season, and the idea is just for them to create an extension of their youth programs for their like U17s, U18 kids to play against. Like they'll have some older guys too, but predominantly an opportunity for their U17s, U18s to play against men. And so I think that's the idea, is creating a platform that anyone can use for whatever like specific some of it just might be like, I think Portugal, Julian might eventually put on a team. Like the idea is just an extension of his training and all that sort of stuff. So the idea is just creating a platform that anyone can use for whatever they want to use.
And just making the community grow and making good competitive soccer like what we grew up in, right? I'm assuming.
Yeah, and so that's why, and it's cool that it's been a long couple of years, but it was definitely fulfilling this past season to have these playoffs like play out the way they did and the way Kevin it was finally the soccer that we've been like it's like the soccer is there now. Now I've realized this. We've worked for the last couple of years. The soccer's there. The players are starting, like, that's crazy. Like even La Mayor, we're starting to see guys that I haven't seen in like years come out and just play. So it's like, I think it's starting to like gain that traction. Now we just need to work on finding more people who like want to run, who just care. And like, we can kind of show you what to do. We can kind of like give you the pathway guidelines on how to start a team and how we do it, how we did it. But the idea is we need to find those people that care enough to kind of take it seriously and kind of, I think that's the biggest part, just finding those individuals around town that care and want to put something together and finding a way to support them. Because it's a lot. And so there's not very many people who want to take on that much responsibility. And so just kind of finding those people and really kind of working and creating relationships. And like it might take, and what I've learned is like almost like most of the teams, it took like 3 or 4 no's before I took a yes. And so I think just reaching out to good people and then just staying consistent, letting them see the growth, and then just kind of following back up and just I think the goal is just to get as many good people involved as possible.
You're one of the main examples of that, even hearing your beginning story of being very relatable to the same thing, the youth kids that might not have the same financial resources and things, tying it all together. You've grown up with your dad who was really passionate about it, and now you're trying to obviously build something even more with the guys who care. So that's kind of my next question is, how have you seen the change in growth from the league from where it started to where it is now?
I think a couple parts to that. So A was they've started this a couple times before in the past, like when I was doing a NAWA and Mobsters when UPSL was here, and it just kind of crashed and burned.
What time frame was that? NAWA and UP and
like 15,
Mobsters.
16, around then, 15, 16,
oh, wow.
17.
So we're almost talking about 10 years ago now.
Yeah, which is crazy.
Time flies.
Yeah, and I think COVID just has kind of skewed a lot of that time thing
ruined
too.
It, right?
Like
yeah.
I think people like I don't know. I think COVID has kind of definitely thrown a wrench into people's time frames and all that sort of stuff, because stuff that doesn't feel like it's that long ago, but
it was 2015. I mean, so that was the official start of it, or like the ball rolling on that.
That was kind of like more where like I moved back and was getting involved with Mobsters, and then just like from there went to a NAWA, and then from there moved with Legends, just kind of with a vision to kind of so like.
You have seen it grow so much to now, like you were just talking about how you're getting that competitive style of football that you're looking for all your teams.
Oh, that's the biggest thing I've seen is like before we were teams were so reliant on a kid, they had their guy, and it's like at that point, like it's created the culture of like next man up versus like catering to some of these divas, which I mean, some of them deserve to be, some of them are good enough to deserve to be divas, but there's a lot of them where it's like growing up in youth when there's so many youth teams in every age that I feel like a lot of these kids have never not been the man. And I think sometimes that's an experience that like, also the coach has to be the one to like able to handle that as well. So it's like kind of teaching the kid of like, all right, like understanding where he's coming from while also trying to like implement like better, like a better mindset and better like guide, like better like structure for his life and kind of what he wants to do to actually pursue that. So I think some of these guys have like never showed up to training, never showed up to, and then they just show up and play. So I think just helping these men's teams where I think a lot of these, it gets even worse as you get to adult, because a lot of these kids don't have any, like before they had no vision. They were going out for fun. And essentially there was no vision of where this could go on. And and obviously like that's the whole point of this is enjoy the game. But at a certain point it wasn't consistent. And it's like what we were trying to do wasn't growing. And so I think just focusing with the teams to like building a club that people want to come to versus like building a club that you get people to come to. So I think just kind of I think Kevin's kind of the perfect example of just building a structure, staying consistent, and like just caring about your kids. And like
it's like anything, right? It's like a team. You got to build it from the start, and that's what you're done here. So. And
I think just Kev just cares. I think his caring like is why a lot of those players are there. It's like regardless of whose coach was, regardless of like how they performed, like I think there's a lot of guys that won't leave Kevin just because like the person he is. And I think just creating communities like that, like there's what's going to be crucial, because I think that's essentially what it is. Like each of these teams is eventually going to be, the idea is eventually come its own community. That there'll be some overlap and there'll be some people who move interminglingly, but like creating a community that people care about and want to fight for and like want to play for, and that's the idea. Is because like I think now it's like now I guarantee he will have so many people now that he's one who have a lot of people kind of gravitate towards him instead, which will allow him to kind of just keep in mind what he's done and like the kind of people he wants to bring in to his program versus just kind of taking the best 18 guys. So I feel like a lot of it's just getting away from like, obviously, like if we want to go anywhere with these teams, we need talent, but I think just building the infrastructure is almost like more important than like catering to any players.
Creating a culture, right, for them to buy in. That's essentially what he did, right? And that's why people want to play for him now. When he was on here, he told us that some of the players were going to be signing contracts soon to other leagues. So essentially, your league helped provide that platform for them, and then what he built helped provide that chance for them as well. So it all ended up lining up.
Yeah, now I think one of the focus is getting the opportunities, but I think one of the focuses of our league and our teams is just making sure they're educated and ready when they get those opportunities too. Because like they can go over there and they can have a trial, they can play, but like if they need to know what they're getting into, know what the expectations are, like know what to realistically expect, and then kind of give 100% versus like I think some of these guys have like some of these youth clubs have connections that they'll just send a player, like they've like built these relationships over a long period of time where people just trust them, and that is good, but it's like now we just need to make sure when those people go over there that they're ready for that, because at that point it's like the same thing, it's credibility building or deteriorating for us, because like a kid goes over there and they're representative of us and like what they do and how they carry themselves, and I think that we have some good guys that are getting their chances, like Joe White's going to, I think, FC Naples in USL 1 in Florida. And then I think Abdel Kuba, I don't know if his brother has signed yet, but I think he's going up to Toronto to play with Toronto FC's second team. And so, but luckily, those are good people that I think are going to represent us well. And I think just us, not just like as a league, just like making sure we stay in touch with them and like create relationships, and hopefully those people can then kind of like build this cycle of them creating relationships with agents, scouts, and then creating opportunities. So right now, like I said, the platform of soccer is there. Now we just have to move. Now we just have to find an opportunity for these guys. And so now I think a lot of these guys are ready to I think there's a couple guys around town that could be playing elsewhere, but I think just them playing at a higher level is going to allow them to be kind of ready when the opportunity comes.
Now, what is your target for the certain players you're looking for, and how do they even get involved with your leagues or find a team?
I think honestly the main just want to be there. I think that's the main thing is like whether the kids want to be there at whatever level. Because there's like I said, we like now that we've created a differentiation in conferences, divisions, it will help us because we have like a clear first and second division of like it was tough when like some of the top team like when Sin City for example is playing a new team. It's very tough for that new team to like figure it out while also having to compete against them. So I think that's kind of been the key is creating a very differentiated divisions to like essentially create like a stepping stone to like.
How would like someone like me though, like I said, if I wanted to play like right now and I said I want an opportunity, how do I even get involved? Like, how do I even get an invitation? How do I reach out?
A lot of it's just a lot of it been community based. I mean, all the teams will be hosting tryouts over the next like month probably.
Okay, so there's a tryout season.
Each teams will probably usually like a preseason. Okay. And then a lot of times I would just say reaching out to teams and coaches and just seeing if you can come out to training, anything additional. Because
where do you find them? Like, is there just Instagram?
I would just say check out social media. Our website is pretty good. I mean, Southwest Premier League. So just there's a lot of ways to inquire, phone number, email to like specifically from there. And then like once you get there, I think like I personally would like a lot of it's just like if I know who the person is, it's a lot easier to kind of plug them in a certain place. But I think a lot of it's just kind of like seeing them play first, like making contact, and then just kind of getting them to like trial or like because I think a lot of the teams are pretty flexible and like working with like giving players chances. I think Sin City's like they're kind of at capacity, but it's kind of tougher for a team like them to kind of just try someone out. But there are new teams that are always looking for players, so it's like.
Oh, that's amazing.
And that doesn't mean that you can't play with like a second division team this season and then move up next season or like kind of that's hopefully the idea is like these teams are kind of more or less scouting off them and just kind of that's complementing each other.
That's my next question. I know you probably have some questions, but I'm just like fascinated because I don't know much about your leagues at all really. So I just want to know like what is like that goal? What is that next step for those players? And you're talking about how they're going to get scouted or looked at. So. What is that process like, and what is like the future for you in terms of getting these guys looked at where you want them to go?
I think that there are each team kind of has to take a lot of the responsibility on themselves to kind of create that avenue for the player. But the league is here, like me personally is like the idea is I want to empower other people to kind of help other people. So that's the idea is like with the league, kind of be as a resource to kind of teams to take the lead, but also be a resource for them to, all right, I've seen this work with them. I've seen this not work. I've seen this combust. Like, this is it's like, just be there as a resource for the teams to kind of grow as well. But a lot of times it's going to take like someone like Kevin, like someone involved with the team that's just very, it's a lot of work, and so like that's
investing in your guys and your coaches.
Yeah,
right?
So that's what I say. It's a lot. There's usually one person on every team that just kind of like the workhorse, and so everybody just like and then I think the key. I think the key for them is finding people to help build around them. I think that's the key, so they don't get burnt out. But I think just we're working on a couple different things. Like I think like next February we're gonna work on like a league-wide combine, try to invite like some. Professional coaches and like even if just like NISA leaning on our relationship with NISA Pro, just getting looks at from NISA Pro teams, which, like I said, from there can provide opportunities like to sign on from there to MLS.
Would it be like camp style type of thing or like
competing?
Okay.
So next February we're looking to host like a combine traditional kind of combine, camp. And then the idea is also just. The organic relationships we're hoping as this season grows, we're hoping our relationship with NISA Pro, we can lean on that more and get more guys in those NISA Pro like environments. And to some people it's not MLS, but it's professional. You're getting paid to like live your dream and just learn from it and kind of keep moving up. And so I think that NISA Pro, I think, is going to be hopefully a good avenue for a lot of these guys to have their experience, and then whether that's finding a home with that NISA Pro team and fitting in that community, or like LA Force is like very very some of the teams are a lot more stable than others, but I'll use like LA Force as an example. Like they're very much like entrenched in like the SoCal with how much soccer there is, that they still are very entrenched, sell out with a couple thousand fans. So like NISA Pro is a good avenue for players. It's just I also think it's a good place for teams to find like their spot and those NISA Pro teams become. And then, like I said, whether or not they move on it's kind of on them. But it's like
how's the relationship with NISA Pro and you and your league?
With NISA Nation, we have a very good relationship. It's just NISA Pro. We have a good relationship with NISA Pro, but they do allow all the teams to act independently. So, like, the team is very much building a relationship with those pro teams individually, but, like, they will help us, like, they'll help connect us, but a lot of times it's on the teams and myself to, like, build the relationships with those teams and kind of help find those opportunities.
Okay.
So let's circle back to because you mentioned the Mayor, right?
Yeah.
And obviously, let's talk about you growing up. Do you think it's important for these kids once they get to a certain age to start playing in the adult leagues? Because I remember, if we grew up in the same era, we remember, the Mayor, what it once was. And I think I mentioned to you earlier that I refed in a league once, the Azteca League, and they had 5 divisions of the adult league. And I think it was Premier was the highest, but in their league, they called it Mayor, and it was the lowest one, right? But we're talking about 5 different tiers, Monday to Sunday, right? Different leagues. And how important do you think that is for players, right, if they want to play in that next level or in the higher level, amateur, semi-pro?
Well, I think it's two-pronged. I think it was important for us to help La Mayor get to because, like, there's a lot of talent at La Mayor, but we also want to there was also a lot of negative stereotypes that it kind of went along with that of the fighting, drinking, and we're not necessarily opposed to, like, people against, like, we want people to enjoy it, have beers after the game, like sit there and watch, like Pacoima will play the 9 o'clock game, and then they'll just sit there and drink beers and watch, like, the next 3 games. And so it's like we don't want to take that, but we just want to create a certain, like, threshold of standard that we want to make sure we implement.
Professionalism, right?
To help. And I think another big thing is just bringing in, like, referees who care and paying more the referees, unfortunately, because I think, like, the more you kind of get what you pay for with that.
Mm-hmm.
Is like if you try to, like, skimp out, you'll get people who don't care, aren't necessarily bad referees, but they just don't care to be there. And so it's like I think just helping La Mayor get to a standard where, like, you're not worried about your kid. Like, it was a little bit different when I was, like, we were kind of on our own when I was kids. So it's like if you got hurt, you got hurt, and so it's like, but it was a different, like you said, the environment was different. To where it was so hyper competitive that it's very hard to, like, critique that sort of stuff. But I think, and so it's like I remember, like, growing up, like, that's where everyone wanted to play. Like, that's where, like, when I was, like, I remember lying about my age to play with that, like, play there.
You had to be like 15, right, or something like that.
I think I lied about being 16 when I was 15, and so I think, and actually the same thing at Rampart, I lied about my age playing with there so I could play with my dad, and then when I went back and worked there, the age was still wrong. So it was pretty ironic. But I think just, first of all, helping La Mayor take certain...
So you're involved with it, right? So
yeah. So Ivan Flores has become a good friend of mine. He's kind of taken the lead on that because it kind of, like, weathered a little bit because I think it's a lot of, like... I don't know. Before there was a lot of, like, money, like some things.
I know because I coached in there. Yeah. I had a team in there, right, with San Nico, and first season we won it not paying anyone, and then next season they go after these players, and it makes sense, It's
a cycle of, like, and then because once one person sees, like, oh, he's getting paid $20, I want 30, and it's like that person sees he's like, it just snowballs, and that's kind of, that's one of those things where I'm not going to try and figure out what people are doing at La Mayor. But I think that I will say that building a structure is going to help make that sustainable. Because, like, if you're paying a couple players a game, like, that's sustainable. But if you're playing your whole team and it's like, and you don't really know them, like, they may or may not show up. Mm-hmm. So it's like, I think that's why it's so important to build a structure. And, like, there's certain guys that I won't name names, but, like, that are ex-pros that won't come out unless you pay them. So it's like, we wouldn't necessarily get those guys out there if we didn't do that. So it's like, it's a weird kind of thing where you obviously aren't supposed to do it, but I understand that, like, I'm not going to stop every single person from doing it. So it's like,
it's just ego right there, right? And the Mayor is just ego because I've seen people spend over 20, 30,000 in the season. It's like you can literally redirect that money, make a team in the SWPL, the NPL,
or even in La Mayor, just restructure it, like, with younger players who want to be there, and, like, you may not win. It's like, that's I think Kevin's the example of, like, you may not win right away, but building I can very adamant like building a structure and like an infrastructure and sustainable like product is what's gonna, because like circling back to now was like we won everything and then just disappeared. Like we won UPSL first team and then just didn't even compete the next season. So it just kind of was like what that kind of skewed was like what was the point of that realistically? That like you said, that was a little bit of like what can I do for my own self and legacy versus like what can I do for the communities, right? Where I realistically think like building that like probably say that word a million times, building the infrastructure is like so important to helping these teams become sustainable, because I think like some of them even started like incorporate like Pacoima starting to incorporate a youth kind of like, it's not like age groups from U3 to U8, but they have like intermediate age groups where they're really actually starting to create a community style product. And so I think just getting more teams like that, certainly like helping them create a better standard, but then also with helping these ex-pros and these high-level, because there's a lot, I mean, there's so much crossover from our league. A lot of our players end up playing on Sundays. So I think just once you have that certain threshold of organization, like I think it's so critical to like play against those for like these 16, 17, 18-year-olds to play against men and like play against ex-pros and play against like, and it's like, and when, like you said, pride is like pride, ego is like a big thing. Is like just ask. Like you can ask an opposing, like after the game, ask him a question, ask him why he did that, ask him why. Like there's a lot of like great, like Brian De La Fuente is a great guy that just is around La Mayor that so many people can learn from. So many people can like learn from his journey, learn from like how he made it pro. It wasn't necessarily your traditional like college draft, stay MLS. He like worked his way up from like Sunday league to like just better Sunday leagues to where I'm sure some Sunday leagues he was getting paid till eventually getting his opportunity and coming over and was supposed to be the captain of USL of the Lights before he blew out his knee in the preseason. So it's like I think he's like a good example of like what like just the level of talent that we have in La Mayor, but also just like what like the resources we should be using, like just asking, like, and he's so willing to like answer questions and give away knowledge that like he's just a really good dude. So I think just like getting more, like Raul Mendiola just came back from California. So I think just asking guys like that, like what, like help, like learning from them, I think is going to be not only playing against them and like the physicality of like having to step up and play, like learning to play against men. And in La Mayor, where like a lot of stuff probably goes that doesn't like, probably a lot looser calls there than anywhere else. So it's like just learning how to play like that, I think will help you kind of set you up for other things too.
Yeah. Physicality, strength, all that, it adds a lot more, especially trying to go to that high level.
Mentality.
Mentality too. But I'm just gonna come from like I don't know much from like La Mayor or anything. How is it different from your leagues? Are they together or are they separate?
So actually, the idea is we eventually want to implement like a whole like promotion relegation system thing.
Also include them, like make a partnership.
That's the idea. So like we're right now we're just trying to help like NISA Nation, Southwest Premier League, La Mayor, and then we're actually starting La Mayor Segunda next month, like a second division. So the idea is eventually create like a promotion relegation. We're a long way before that because we need each like all of the leagues to become stable like and self-sufficient before we really do that. But that's like the end goal. So helping create, and it's just such a different environment, honestly, than like our league on Friday. So like Nevada Premier League on Fridays is like very much like tradition, like kids are training. Honestly, some of their teams will beat our teams, but it's like, what is the long-term goal with the Sunday league? Is it just to have a good team, enjoy it, be out there? And that's the majority of it. Just play at a high level and enjoy it. And then taking it kind of next step to Nevada Premier League is like, all right, how do we start like the guys have to come to training. There's a little bit more of a standard where it's like a lot of times you won't get some guys who don't want to like put that much work into it still. So it's like
structure, yeah.
So that's why, but I still believe Sunday League is like so important to like the ecosystem and everywhere. It's just like it's a high level of soccer without like high level of commitment. And so what I'm trying to do is like a level of commitment from multiple people to like build. It's not like simple, I guess was what I'd say. It's like, this is just enjoy it. It's like, do you want to play at a high level? Like that's how I differentiate. It's like I would like they're both high level soccer, but one is more long term and one's more like who's going to win today.
Essentially, you could use that as like a pool, right, the Mayor or Sunday League in general as a pool for these teams in the SWPL and NPL to pick players from.
Yeah.
Because you were talking about a player that Sin City has that I think you said he's 31 and he was like a really good striker.
Yeah.
And where'd they find him? Playing Tuesdays?
Yeah, so Jair Pardo is played for Sin City. Kid's a monster. So he was our league's leading goal scorer, and I had no idea who he was before the season. I mean, first game you realize, all right, this kid's good. But it just he's the perfect example. Why the hell, what have you been doing, man? Like, why? And it's just like watching his work ethic, I know it wasn't on him. He just someone like that, I think just needs direction. And I feel like that's kind of a shame, but also like it's cool that we are finding guys like that. To whereas like, yeah, Sin City, they found him on like a random Tuesday league that they played in. Actually, they found a handful of guys in just a random Tuesday league that are just all really good.
So would you say that in your league, right, in the SWPL and the NPL, there's standout players that you think can potentially go far? So seeing that, how can you, right, yourself or even the coaches, right, how can you guys all help mentor these certain players to have that mentality to go further, sorry?
And what I've learned is sometimes the player has to want to do it. Like you can't because I've tried so hard to certain guys I see potential and just kind of making them do it, and I've kind of learned that that's not the way to go. It's I almost want it more than they do for themselves, and so it's but I've also learned that that's not it. They have I think as we grow and create a larger platform, it will be more intriguing to players to pursue that. But I think the step A is finding kids who want to be there, and so I think that's going back to the culture thing is just I think it's more important to take a player who wants to be there than a better player long term, because it's it's going to help you. They need to help themselves to a point as well. So it's I think us just having step one is just high level gameplay, and then just being individuals kind of taking. Honestly, it's just gonna be a lot of individuals who kind of take it upon themselves to go above. There's no need for you to go help that kid. There's no need for you to It's you send him off, you did your job. Where it's but it's realistically that's not what's best for the play. I think there's opportunities are not for the coach. I think, and that's honestly I think where a lot of this has kind of come is opportunities are all about the coach, and the coach gave this kid. But it's well, he's coming back. And then they put it on the player not being ready, but it's why is he not ready? Why is someone from Delaware able to, who has no more of an education than this kid, why is he making it not? So it's I think a lot of it just kind of comes down to mindset. And I think just getting them to buy in. I think that's just, because if they want to be there, it's going to be so much easier for them, as opposed to some people just grind it out, show up to training, hate it, and I don't think those kids last too long. But I think a lot of it's just they have to like being there. They have to and that's why I think it's so important for the coach to be. And at this point, Nevada Premier League, I don't think our coaches' goals are to reteach someone how to play soccer. It's maybe give them tips, maybe put them in the right direction, have a vision, and then just getting engaged with the players and having the players want to come back. And that's where I would say Jordan Merle is a good friend of mine. He's so good at just getting players, players just love practice. Practice is upbeat. Players love being people. We have some players who will come to practice and then knowing they can't make games. So it's just such a dynamic shift from in the past with some coaches trying to beg players, whereas they're X's and O's guys, and it's what I've realized now is sometimes these kids need more of a father figure sometimes, just a mentor than sometimes a coach, because especially 18, 19, 20, you're not going to you're not going to teach them how to play at 19, 20 years old, but it's you could change a kid's mindset at 19, 20 years old, and that could change everything for them.
Absolutely. I could say personally, I could definitely have used that at that age, especially going through soccer. One of the biggest things I love this phrase, because no one taught me how to die in soccer either. What is it after if you don't make it, or if you are trying to make it, what are the proper steps for you to go on and learn that mentality that you're talking about achieving?
And I think that's another thing with this whole league is creating opportunities outside of playing. If someone wants to be a scout, someone wants to be a coach, someone wants to be this, that, I think that's another part of it, is creating an environment where people can learn to do that as well, and not just play. And I feel that playing and coaching is pretty much like a lot of like people either see like even refereeing, I think, is another avenue that like we need more people to want to referee. So I think that's an avenue of like, and it's just like a lot of these referees, like people bash them, but it's like if all of our top players don't want to ref, then like how are we criticizing the people that want to be there? Like they may not, like for example, like there may be a ref who loves reffing, who loves soccer, but he never played at a high level. He never played. So it's like there are certain things that he may not understand that like we're getting pissed at him for, but it's like he doesn't understand how much like a little tug in your jersey can, like, it's not big, but it's like it can throw off your moment. It can change, like it can change the way I make my run. It can change the whole game. But it's like
details.
It's like little things like that I think we are so critical of referees on. Where it's like, why don't like we as a community need to push people to become referees, and like because that's one of the things we're working on is like we're not quite there yet, but like eventually creating like some sort of incentivization program for like players who become referees, like waive their league fees or like waive like certain things like that to like incentivize. I think that's like another step where it's like I think there's some referees who are really good, and it's like there's very few referees who like care a lot and are knowledgeable. I feel like a lot of times you get like these ex-superstars that just coast when they ref. So it's like, yeah, they know the intricacies, but like they don't know the rule book. But then there may be some guy who never played, who loves soccer, who knows the rule book inside and out, but like doesn't know how to talk to a player, doesn't know how to like, especially La Mayor's, like sometimes it's like, I think it's like one of those things like different environments need different solutions. So it's like sometimes you need someone who has like thicker skin on Sundays, whereas like we kind of have like less of a like not say zero tolerance policy, but like less tolerance for that. Whereas like Sunday, you gotta have thick skin to be able to ref.
Oh yeah, what they're saying to them.
And so it's like, and so it's just, and I think that's a very big part of it. Is just getting the referee, like getting every aspect of what we're trying to do, coaching, and then like Portugal is a good example of like finding more Portugals. Like people who offer outside, because like a coach can only commit he can only commit to like X amount of hours per week to like, and a lot of times it's a community, it's like team based, like he doesn't have too much time to do individuals with all of his players, especially. So I think people like Julian Portugal are so important to how do we, because like I use him as an example because I talk to him every now and then. He's like at capacity with like how much he like, because he trains from like morning to night. So it's like, how do we create more of him? Because it's like,
yeah, it's really important. It really is. And I love just kind of going back to everything that you talked about. I loved everything that you said. And my biggest thing that I took from that, and I think the advice you give, obviously, for players and coaches is to buy in that mentality that you're talking about. And it's always about doing more. And us as coaches, that's what we're telling our players. And it's great that you want to mold these even – with some clubs when they get older, you feel like that they kind of give up on them because, if you're not already made it or have a college thing or something already planned out, you're there to kind of mentor them and get these coaches that you have inspiring them. So, no, I think that's really good. What, real quick, what are just some future things that you have coming up that we can tune in for or kind of follow you with?
Okay. Circling back is actually, shit, I kind of lost my train of thought. But working on a couple of things. One of the things we're working on is working on a Nevada State Cup, like a men's state cup.
Oh, nice.
It probably won't be official. Like eventually, we want it to be affiliated with USASA and like feed into the amateur cup. But I think due to like that would be a long process. So I think we just want to do one good this year. So I think we're just going to do a state cup, invite winners of the different leagues, Azteca, Libertad, even like.
Wow, that's amazing. Didn't Ivan just do that? He had the two teams play, right?
So that's we and him are working on it together. Okay. So like we're working on a whole thing to where it was originally going to be like the winner of La Mayor versus the winner of us, but like we've decided, like someone came into this concept of just like, so we're going to invite like just teams like Northern Nevada too, invite like a couple teams and to just create just have like a local state cup. And I think the winner, like the finals of that is going to be like a back-to-back with the Lights.
Okay.
At some point, I think probably June, working on a back-to-back with them.
That's amazing. This is going to be a good idea.
So and I think, well, actually, we're doing a couple Lights. Honestly, and that's another thing I can't say. Like I've been kind of talking to the new Lights staff, and like they have seen like they have come with a completely different vision of what they're trying to do, and like I'm excited to work. Like I was like not anti-Lights before, but I was not I just didn't see the benefit of what they had, their vision of what they were trying to do, and I don't think it was Las Vegas soccer community based. And I think that this group is I mean, they're still like figuring it out, but like they were showing initiative. They want to get involved in the Las Vegas community, and so like I think just working with them is like another, hopefully, like creating a relationship with them for opportunities for players. Like that's like the vision, is always looking for opportunities for these guys to kind of. And then like Max, I don't know if you saw their goalkeeper coach.
Yeah, he's with the Lights now, right?
Yeah. The old Legends guy. But yeah, he's just how that happened was like a crazy story too.
That's really great.
So where can people follow the league and stay updated and see what you guys got going on?
I would honestly, as stupid as it sounds, just say the social media.
What are your handles?
We're trying just at NV Premier League. Mm-hmm. We're working on bringing a videographer on board to kind of help, because like right now it's a lot of just static updating, like schedules, results, but we're working on bringing like an intern videographer to kind of help complement that, because I think that's definitely where we need.
Do you have like an Instagram page at all or anything? What's the Instagram?
NV Premier League. So okay. Just at NV Premier League. And then, just follow the individual teams. And circling back to what you said, and if you do have any questions, want to get involved, reach out to the league, reach out to the teams. Most of the teams are looking for help, player on and off the field. So, there's a large opportunity for people who want to get involved in soccer to, just get involved with teams, without having – because before it was kind of if you want to get involved, you had to, take a team. You had to, start – and it's but now it's, all these organizations are looking for more people to kind of help complement what they're doing. So I think it's – a lot of opportunity for people to get involved without having to commit their whole life
there's certain things or aspects of the league and the teams that you can get involved with. So that's amazing. Well, last thing, any final message or thoughts that you want to give to the community before we wrap this all up?
I think just the main thing is just working together. I think that's kind of been the biggest thing I've tried to push over the last 5-6 years, is just there's La Mayor, we could very easily compete and push them down, but it's there's no reason why we can't complement each other. And I feel that's a lot of what the youth association is we're trying to work with them and create work with the youth, just create relationships. And I think that's the key, is so many people have wanted to do it for themselves, and I feel as younger people like you guys and myself, is as we get more younger people involved, I think it's gonna be more people who are ambitious and want to grow and willing to share ideas, versus we have a lot of guys who had success a certain way, and it's kind of just ingrained in their head, with some of the clubs, some of these clubs, they had their success, and it's in their head, why would you the whole if it's not broke, don't fix it sort of concept. So I get a lot of the times they get stuck in what worked first. And I think that's why I think it's so important to bring along younger guys, new fresh faces, fresh ideas, fresh voice to kind of complement what they're doing. And I think that's where, and when I lost my train of thought, I think one thing I'm trying to push is I'm trying to push any of the youth. We would love if any of the youth clubs Villarreal's kind of our guinea pig with it right now. Just push them to create an extension of their youth, because the concept, they can create a U19, U20 team, and that can, in my head, complement both, to where it's the youth players now have a vision of what the A team is, what you can play, and it's not just it's kind of, because I feel sometimes even some of it's out of their power, the youth club after your U19, they're kind of done with you, but it's
it's having an avenue.
In their defense, what are they supposed to, they're handcuffed after a certain point. Mm-hmm. So it's so that's why hopefully we can work with them and create, like I said, players. I've brought it to De La Fuente, but he gave me a nice no. But hopefully, just as we build credibility, become an environment where you guys can trust that your 16, 17-year-olds will play there. They're not going to get hurt. They're going to be taken care of when they come play. So I think that's one of my things I'm trying to grow towards, is getting this to a place where it's comfortable for teams to do that.
Oh, that's awesome. No, from everything I've heard from your journey to what the structure is that you want to build, the mindset, and giving young players even a path for them to bridge into having an opportunity to play in whatever it is, semi-professional or professional, or just having avenues, that's fantastic. So no, I'm I want to thank you for coming on. I learned
Oh,
so
dude, thank
much.
you guys.
So much.
Dude,
It's
good to see you again.
been a
Ben.
great
Haven't
talk.
seen you in a
too.
bit. We'll have to stay in touch.
Appreciate you. Appreciate you
Absolutely.
coming out.
Thank you.
Great talking to you,
Appreciate it.
Tyler. Thank you, NeuGen, for tuning in to this episode. This was great. Hopefully you took away some things, got to know more about Tyler, the leagues that are here, and that you can reach out if you're looking out to play for one of these teams. So thank you, guys, and please be tuned in for the next episode. Thank you again, Tyler.